And by the way, thanks to This Week in League lads for the lovely gear that they sent over to us as well. I shall be opening a stubby with my keyring and putting my This Week in League sticker up in the window and wearing my hoodie, probably with pride at the Challenge Cup if the weather's anything like the British summertime has been so far. I'll be rocking that with pride. Right,
they say red and green should never be seen, but for a bit of podcast.
Well, yeah, that's it. I might put the Super League pod jersey on underneath it, and then go dual podcast representation.
Good lad, I'll be wearing Wigan garb.
Right, okay. So this is quite hastily put together, I must admit. But I'll go through it, and then you can ask any questions that you might have. So this is the 17 that I would choose to start the game against Australia. Okay, so there might be some odd choices in there, but I've tried to kind of provoke a bit of controversy along the way. So we'll start with the forward pack.
So it's not necessarily the side you would pick, it's the side you've picked with a few things in there to wind people up.
Well, look, we host a podcast, let's keep it entertaining. And to be fair, I'm not Wayne Bennett, and I'm picking second rowers that aren't 9 foot tall and 18 stone. So, we'll see how we do. I'll start with the easiest one, though. Galen Widdop in the halves. I would start with Sam Tompkins to start at full back for me, Eden and Ryan Hall on the wings, Watkins and Zach Hardacre in at centre, and then a pack of James Graham and Tom Burgess at prop, and young Josh Hodgson at hooker, Bateman and Farrell in the second row, and locking the scrum I would have Sam Burgess, Alex Walmsley, George Williams, Mike McMeekin and George Burgess off the interchange bench.
Right, well, I'll be bringing a different 17 to the table next week.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll be crowbarring Todd in there at some point, won't you?
Well, I will, but the biggest question mark for me is who's going to play on your right wing out of those two wingers.
Well, I'm going to get one of them to play out of position, Mark.
No, I'm just asking which one.
Well, I'd go Greg, I think.
Right, interesting.
I think I'll go Greg.
Right, well, we'll see what the listeners have to put out there, and I'll bring mine to the table next week as well, and you might have a rethink about the odd over.
No, I'm going to stick to my bench. I'm going to stick to my guns. Listen, he's on the interchange bench to keep him out of trouble. I don't want him starting. I can't start with Tom Burgess and James Graham.
Oh, sorry. I thought you might not want him getting into trouble by
throwing bottles,
running around the stadium pissed whilst he's not in the match day squad.
No, it'll be fine. We'll sort him. We'll sort him right out. Okay. Anyway, that's whetted your appetite. So give us your 17s and let's see what we all think. Okay, what's next?
Martin Simpson at Mart Sim. If you want to get onto him on Twitter, I would recommend it. He is our local boy in Toronto. He said, really like how you approach the Barrow crowdfunding story. Listened to a radio show who jumped to the conclusion that Toronto are at fault. It was nice to hear a balanced discussion. 99% of opposition players and supporters I have spoken to at games have loved it.
Good.
And he had the run of our Instagram on Saturday afternoon for him. Saturday evening.
Brilliant pictures.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah, checking in with some of the Newcastle fans that were over, and
if he's the
bespectacled
gentleman out of the selfies, good looking boy as well.
Yeah, he's not done bad, has he?
He's doing all right. Yeah, it's all everything's coming up, Martin, isn't it?
Yeah. So thanks for that, Martin. It was really enjoyable. I've changed the Instagram password up. People want to get in touch with us if you go into the Challenge Cup final. That's the only way you're getting access really this week. So get in touch. But yeah, that's great stuff from Martin, and I'm sure we'll want to get him back on it again. Probably the Barrow game when the Wolfpack can confirm their promotion. I would suspect is the best bet to get Martin around that next time around.
That would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Might not get any Barrow fans.
Perhaps not.
Wanting to pose for selfies.
We might have. We might have upset them.
Well, no one's got in touch, so none of them must listen to the show. But
there you
go. I think we were probably leaning on the side of Toronto rather than pure balance, but we did.
Once they get broadband up there, though, they'll be bang onto our podcast, I reckon. Okay.
Tom, they've got one of the most high-tech production plants in the country on their seafront.
For the washing panel?
No, for the warships, sir.
I'm being purposefully provocative.
Dr. Bob Phillips got in touch with a couple of public service announcements.
Speaking of purposefully provocative,
he said number one of his public service announcements is filtering your mess through bread will not make it safe.
Well, it tastes nice though.
And two, feet need sunscreen too. Slip, slap, slop.
There you go.
Not in this weather.
No, but handy advice.
There you go.
Handy advice, thank you.
He had another one as well, but it was about Yorkshire puddings, and we moved on.
Yeah,
Richard
moving on
Tordoff
from them now.
at Bulls on Tour got in touch. He said,
sorry, just to go back to Bob, had his SLP jersey on at Headingley on Friday night.
I think, right, he had a Leeds jersey on underneath it too.
He did definitely have a Leeds jersey on underneath. Well, that's fine, keeping warm.
Swapping over.
Nothing wrong with that, absolutely.
Yeah, good lad anyway, either way. Okay. Richard Tordoff, he said, thanks for the mention, boys. Bulls will be back bigger and stronger once we start on an even footing in Championship 1 #wasted year.
I admire your optimism, Rich.
Well, what do you think of the whole sort of mixed squad, full-time, part-time idea?
I think I don't know, Mark, to be honest, because I don't know if it's true. That's the other side of it. We've been fed so much party line from different owners, and I don't necessarily trust that they really fully know how they're going to implement it.
I think if you can get some full-time conditioned forwards in that division, then and a couple of talented halfbacks, you've won the division.
Possibly so, but here's the thing: you've got to get everyone playing together and clicking. And if half your squad, or a third of your squad, or a quarter of your squad are training all the time, and 3/4 of it are training on a Tuesday and a Thursday night, or whatever, that impacts the level of cohesion you're able to achieve. Now, Halifax and Featherstone have a similar system in some respects, in that they're more full-time inverted commas players, train the same amount of time as the part-time players, but they have media commitments with the club, and that's how they supplement their wages. So maybe that's the route that the Bulls are going down.
I would suspect so. I mean, Toulouse ran that model last year in League One, and romped to the top of the table, had a bit of a stutter in the playoffs, but eventually went up, and look at them now. They're the favourites for the Championship Shield, so they're where Bulls were last year now.
Of course. And then the other side of it, of course, is that we all keep putting our tinfoil hats on around the whole coup cash thing, because the day after all this positivity came out of the fans forum at Bradford, there was a leaked article and then a swift denial that we'd been offering to sell the club for half the club for £750,000 a mile on coup cash. Well, first of all, there's a couple of things from a sales point of view. If someone comes up to you and says, I'd like to sell you this for £750,000, of course you say no, because the sellers come to you, so you hold out and you knock the price down. So I don't know why anyone was surprised that he turned it down. Second of all, he's offering them 50% of something where we don't own the ground, and a team that's just been relegated.
And is he even actually offering it?
I don't even think it's worth £750,000. Anyway, so I think there's more twists and turns to come. That's why I find it hard to get.
Well, of course there is. It's the Bradford Bulls.
Absolutely.
It's the 2010s decade.
Yeah, we could well be playing at Dewsbury Moor next season if things don't go particularly well. So let's just see how we do.
Okay, Paul Michael Craig at PaulMac_78. He kicked off the big debate.
Well, it was a big enough debate to cause me to whip out my poll, Mark.
He said if the RFL gave a vote to all season ticket holders on how the championship should be decided by a grand final or by first past the post, which would win? So before we get to a few tweets and stuff about this, we've got the poll. Tom whipped out his poll, and he asked, should Super League champions be decided by a playoff or be the team at the top of the league? And in true British form, we've landed just either side of 50%.
Absolutely.
And the 51% has gone with the wrong
gone with the wrong answer. Yeah, absolutely. So it's like Brexit all over again for us, isn't it?
No, but the grand final earned 49% of the vote, and the first past the post winner at 51% of the vote.
Yeah.
I would suspect the timing of the vote and the people who did the retweets of the vote
may have impacted the result.
Yeah, because because it came obviously the day after Castleford, it won the title, and we had 2 or 3 retweets from Castleford-based accounts.
Yeah.
So I would suggest
that's fine.
There's an element of skew there. If we ran the poll again in, say, February, March, it would be interesting to see. If we ran it again in November, it would be interesting to see.
If Castleford grand final, it'll be interesting to run the poll again.
But what it certainly tells us is that there's a big split, a clear divide.
Yeah.
So shall we do other people's views first and then our own?
I think so, yes.
Chris McEwen.
Oh my word. Lovely to hear from you, Chris.
Yes, he's been busy getting golden ducks, but he's got in touch all the same.
Yeah.
He said...
That's a cricket reference,
yes,
is it?
If I had the choice over 2 seasons of 2 league leader shields or 1 grand final, I'd take 1 grand final. I'd also take 1 Challenge Cup instead of 2 league leader shield. All sports have trophies with different prestige attached. That's not an issue. The belittling of the league leader shield is an issue.
There you go.
So he says he'd rather have grand finals or cup finals, but still feels some respect should be shown to the league leaders shield.
Definitely.
So Popra for Men said grand final every day of the week. not literally. Gallant Youth, at Gallant Youths on Twitter, has been someone who's been starting to float around. I think he's in the backwaters of some of the CAS accounts.
Right, okay.
So getting in touch with us a couple of times recently. He
Lovely
said,
to see.
I'm for a middle way, giving the league leaders giving the league winners a prize. That prize should be going straight through to the grand final. Alan Paul Walker said, depends on the whole...
Those two noises tell you everything that they need to know about our opinions of that tweet.
Alan Walker said, depends on the whole domestic season setup, including the Challenge Cup and the number of games, the minimum maximum per season. Yeah, he's thinking like, come on, let's round out the vote. Well, this is the thing, Alan. Yeah. If you were living in this country, you'd realise that it doesn't matter what information you get given when you're coming to an important vote like this. Because
fake news.
You know, we could just tell you bullshit and then you'll vote for it. That's it. Elliot said, I think, just like footy, best over the season and top wins, but I do enjoy the hype and build-up to a grand final. Needs something besides the Challenge Cup too.
Yeah.
So, mixture there. What say ye?
Oh, I like playoffs. I absolutely like playoffs. I think the way we've handled things this year in terms of like the fuss that's been made over Castleford, albeit because it's such a not a turn up for the books because they've been building towards this, but because it's a new team finishing top and because of the style of the manner they played rugby, there's been a bit more of a fuss made about league leaders, shield winners, and it's shone a light on it as a subject, and quite rightly so. And I think they deserve all the plaudits, and Darryl Pyle downwards have done a fabulous job at Castleford, and as I say, they should be applauded for that. However, I like the idea that the overall champion of the competition is decided on the final day of play, and the way you get that and the way you guarantee it every year is by having a system of playoffs and a grand final and an overall winner. And that, for me, makes us a more marketable proposition and a more exciting sport to enjoy.
Well, that's one of the things that leaps out for me, that without a grand final, all those people who say that they want it to be a first past the post system would be the first people saying, where's the showpiece event at the end of the year? And then we'll put a premiership back in, and people will be like, what's the point of that? It's a Mickey Mouse trophy, no one cares about it, because everyone's gearing up for the internationals, we play too many games. Just whatever they did differently would get like mercilessly slagged off by the people who don't want the current system, because that's how rugby league operates.
Yeah.
People want to criticise everything, but don't actually really see a bigger picture. I'm with you. I think the grand final is the way that the season should climax. So putting the title champions, Super League champions, next to the winners of that, and I think it's fully deserved as well. Like, okay, we might have spoken in the past about the 8 from 14 getting in the playoffs being too many.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, especially when the league has been unbalanced in the past. Because you know there was the era of the Big Four, the Big Five sort of thing, and then now this year it's massively unbalanced in that Castleford have won the league leadership at absolute canter. However, behind that, the top 8 is as close as you could imagine.
It's a mishmash.
And I don't necessarily think there's a clear outstanding side behind that. Now for Castleford, it's backing up what they've done in the regular season in high pressurised environments. That's a different level of being a winner. I think I love the season culminating in the grand final, big showpiece event that we can get 60, 70,000 people all together for to celebrate the sport and get it in the headlines. Whereas if it was just winning the title, I don't think we'd get the same sort of coverage at all. I don't think we'd get the same sort of crowds around the leagues. Even though the playoffs don't sell well anymore, they used to 15 years ago. I still think that all 3 trophies need to be absolutely respected for the different achievements, and you can read all about that on the vlog I wrote.
There you go.
Which spells out my view pretty clearly that, you know, the grand final is for the champions, but the league leaders is a massive success, and the Challenge Cup equally is a huge honour for people to win. So it's superleaguepod.blogspot.co.uk for those views fleshed out a little bit more. And it's the most recent post that's on there. I think I've called it something like Celebrating Success.
Yes, that's it, Celebrating Success, yeah.
Something like that. I can't remember.
Not about titles, is it? It's about content.
Either way, there's a couple of hundred words about why I think all titles deserve to be applauded, successed, heralded, but at the end of the day, I love the grand final setup.
There you go.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, moving on then, we've got a couple of bigger pieces here.
Yeah, Rich Wilkinson got in touch, and he does cover this topic, so that's why he drops in next. He says, now then, lads, a big week this week, so I have a bit of feedback if it fits the show. First, on Cass winning the league leaders. I've said it for years, if Saints can dominate the sport, then why not Cass? As a hardcore Rhino who has a massive soft spot for the Tigers, the area and the people, it's great to see. I played my junior rugby in the Cass and District League, and we were sponsored by Jack Fulton's. So the big league leaders grand final debate. If Cass don't make the grand final or don't win it, watch the players' body language. That will tell you which is the big prize. As a fan of a club that has won